Greetings, everybody. Nick DiVirgilio here from Mr. Big, and you are watching CMS TV.
CHRIS Akin Presents, and I, of course, am Chris Akin, and today on the show, we talk about a band that claims they're ending. I don't know if that's true or not. I know how bands tend to work. A lot of them say they're ending, and then a year later, it's like, well, maybe one more. So the band, of course, is Mr. Big. They have a brand new release called 10, which is a great listen, a different listen for them. And maybe it's a different listen because of this guy sitting in the back running the show, so to speak. He is a legendary drummer in his own right, whether you know him from Spock's Beard, whether you know him from Big Big Train, and now from Mr. Big. It is Nick DiVirgilio. Nick, how are you, man?
Great, man. Thank you. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's great to talk to you, man. And it's great to talk to you on what I think is probably weird circumstances for you. And we'll start there before we get into the record itself.
Okay.
I mean, for anybody that's followed along even a little bit, you come in on the back of a very, very beloved guy in Mr. Big passing away with Pat Torpey, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
And you could say that, I guess, for any band that has somebody pass away and, the next guy steps in. But I think in Pat's case, he was so loved by the fans and everything that it really makes it even a little more difficult for the next guy up, which is you, to step in. So let's start there, man. Tell me a little bit about how you approached coming in a way that's both respectful to his legacy, as well as not necessarily just being a clone, but playing with your strength and bringing what you bring to the table to Mr. Big.
Well, it is just that. You got to respect what the original guy did. And I was a fan of Mr. Big from the early days, for sure. I was a fan of Pat's drumming from the 90s, his DCI videos he used to put out and stuff. I had all of that stuff. And I knew how technical and how much of a rocker the guy was, for sure. I was a fan. Sure. This tour it sort of got dropped in my lap. So when it all came together and I said yes, I said yes immediately to the offer from Paul, for sure. And then I knew the history of the band. And listen, these songs are the songs the way they are because of who was in the band, just like any band. Pat's drumming was part of the sound. And my job as a guy coming in on the back end of it, unfortunately, Pat left the way he did. No one wanted that, especially him, of course.
Sure.
And so my job was just to show up and get as close to it as possible. Now, the guys didn't want a total clone, but they wanted it to sound, they wanted to sound like Mr. Big, though. So I just did the best I could to learn his parts and to give him the attitude that he gave the parts. One of the great things about his drumming was the attitude he had behind every snare hit, every crash cymbal. He really, of course, the parts were thought out, but he played them with just,
right.
And that's what gave these songs such power. And I think that's why a lot of people liked and got into the vibe, because the vibe he set for that bass of every tune was really important. So I just wanted to capture as much of that as I possibly could. And once we got into rehearsals and started playing, the vibe between me and Paul and Billy was right from the very beginning was good. Musician wise, personality wise, we all got along together really well right from the very beginning. But once we started playing, the rubber meets the road once you start playing the instruments. And once that started happening, it was like good right away. And then we just started tweaking things. And the more we played, I think what was good is that I was true to the parts as close as I possibly could, because some of his parts are really hard. I mean, let's Some songs are super simple, just backbeat and easy tunes, which is great, but some songs aren't.
Right.
And those are the ones that gave me fits, right? And what's cool is that over time, I've been able just to give my personality, not change the parts, but just give my little bit of my personality. And I think it's gelled pretty well. And the guys seem to like it. And the fans have been really sweet to me, and have welcomed me as part of the ensemble, which I'm really appreciative for. And that's it, so I just tried to be as true to him as I could while still being able to be me. And the guys approved of that, including Eric. And that's where we are now.
Right.
Yeah.
Is it weird on stage? And, I'm not going to dwell on this. It's the last question I'll ask about this before we move on. But is it weird on stage when they're doing, when they're talking about Pat and they're, because they're obviously during the sets, they're tributizing Pat. That's the whole reason the tour happened, really, was the big finish was because Pat passed away. Is it weird for you to be up there as the guy that's sitting in the shoes while they're talking about the other guy and tributizing him?
Well, not really. I knew that was going to happen anyway, but it's not as much as you think. I mean,
okay.
Eric says something about Pat before we play the song Take Cover every night, which is totally fine. And everybody, there's a big round of applause and we just go from there. So it's not that much on stage that he talks about Pat. They talk about Pat a lot in interviews, which is totally understandable. I mean, he was part of the band for 30 years or however long it was before he passed. So it's, there's a lot of history there and it should be remembered and should be talked about. And I'm totally fine with it.
Very good, man. Well, let's talk about the new stuff, man, since you obviously had the chance to play on the new record 10. And I don't know if it's because of you, but this record has a different flavor for Mr. Big. It really is a little more raw than they normally are. It's more blues rock-ish, I guess, for lack of a better term. So tell us about, the writing of the record and, you putting your stamp into the band.
Yeah, well, I know Paul has been getting into, well, he always has been, but he's been lately in his guitar playing since I've known him. He's been really getting into the blues. He likes it. It's a vibe that he wants to learn more. He's such a student of the craft. And when he sets his mind to learning a particular something on the guitar, he learns it inside and out. That's what makes him so awesome as a player. So he's been really getting into the blues recently, and that kind of came across in the songs. Some of them for sure. Eric and Paul were the majority songwriters on this record. Okay. Both had a lot of tunes, and they got together and sort of fleshed them out. And you can tell, at least in my ear, I could tell that the ones that Eric was the main writer on, he's got a really cool singer-songwriter vibe to his style of songwriting. It just comes from him being a singer, and that vibe and acoustic guitar. And so they're stemmed from that. And then you have the blues rock and the classic rock vibe of Paul, and it's sort of melded together into this thing. It is more raw. I think that kind of came from Jay Rustin, our producer's ear, just the vibe of the tunes once he heard the songs and what we were going for. Well, this would be kind of cool. Let's go down this lane. And we said, okay, cool. And just the sound of the drums and the way he recorded them at Sweetwater Studios. And I just love it because it has that it just has a lot of balls to it and rock and roll, which is great. And Eric sounds killer. His voice is nice and just, it still has that thing to it. He has a lot of attitude in his voice. And gosh darn it, man, it was so much fun. It was such a blast to do. One really cool thing is that Paul knew what he wanted to hear. Paul sort of took the reins in the studio.
Okay.
And steered the ship. And he was really focused on the grooves and certain kick drum patterns and things like that. He wanted real specific. And then aside from that, it was like, go for it. The very first single that came out, spacing on the name. No.
Good luck trying.
Good luck trying. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot that for just a second there. Good luck trying. That was one of those scenarios where the guys kept telling me to play more. As a session musician, I'm really trained to, you play for the song and then you sort of keep it simple. That's the first rule of thumb.
Sure.
Playing for all kinds of sessions and stuff, like keeping it simple usually works better. But this particular one was like, no, God, go for it, man. Yeah, more. Go, play more faster fills. And I was like, cool. And So I got to go for it, and that happened to be the first single. So it's like right out of the gate, we were kind of showing what we were all about as this new entity of Mr. Big.
Sure.
And then, man, there's some really cool, very catchy earworm sort of songs and melodies and choruses on this record. And Billy and Paul are playing their butts off like they normally do. And it's just, to get this chance at this stage of my life after their whole career, I never expected this to ever happen. So it's it's an honor for sure. And it's just, I'm really excited I'm playing in this group,
Sure.
I really am.
Do you think that Mr. Big as a whole, and you obviously fit this bill as well, jumping into the band, do you think that Mr. Big ever got the credit for the musicianship level, the level of musicianship that they truly have? And I know, and everybody knows Paul Gilbert is one of the top 10 ever. Everybody knows that Billy's one of the top 10 ever. Your record speaks for itself if you just look out there and see how many people reference you, so there's always been that virtuoso level to the band, but the songs were always sort of not, Yngwie Malmsteen, like that kind of craziness. They always played to it where I don't think they ever got the credit for it. But like you were mentioning earlier, there's a lot of nuance to pretty much every song that they've ever played that the average ear doesn't hear. Do you, especially stepping into the band, do you look at it and say, wow, these guys really were doing a lot of different stuff than maybe people gave them credit for?
Well, I mean, I certainly believe that. I mean, they are two of the, if you're talking Billy and Paul specifically as on their instruments, they are two of the best ever. I mean, they really are up there with some of the greatest ever to put on those instruments. And you could hear it night after night after night on the road. I've done a lot of gigs with these guys so far in this last year, and they're at, I don't know if you would call it the tail end of their career, but they're definitely on the second half of their career at their ages, and they're playing as well as ever. I mean, Billy and Paul every night are super consistent, and they just rage each and every night. I think most musicians realize how good they've always been, but they wanted to. I'm kind of paraphrasing and thinking of who I know the guys are now. But when they started this band, they didn't want it to be some sort of shredder focused sort of thing. They were writing songs, and it was all based around that. Big Van Halen fans and, White Snake and bands that had like melodies and really hooky songs. That was I think that was the focus of it, especially with Eric coming in as the singer, because he came from that world, writing good songs, good hooks, choruses and all that kind of stuff. And he's such an amazing singer. So it was really focused around that. All of the other instrumentation and the way they played their instruments was the ear candy. And boy, they did a lot of amazing ear candy throughout their whole discography, of course. So I think most people, especially if you go to the shows and you talk to fans, I mean, they really do idolize those two guys and the way they play. And so I think so. I think they got the credit. But it's always good. I'm sure they always like to hear it too. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, let's dig into the record, Nick. I'm going to start. I always try to start with my favorite song on the record, and this one probably will surprise you because it might be one of the most simplest songs in the band's whole history. Certainly is one of the simplest on the record, at least to my ear, which is "I Am You." Very basic song, but like you said earlier, this is ear candy 101. It's an earworm that just sticks with you. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about this song.
Well, I think it's one of my favorite tunes on the record as well. I love it. And it's one of Eric's tunes, and it just has a vibe to it, and it's very catchy. Great chords, the progression, and just the way, I don't know, I think the verse, it just sucks you in immediately once you hear it. And it's got your head bopping around. It's not a really heavy song as far as rock and roll is concerned, but it's just a great tune with a great chorus, man. It's got a really good hook. And it is one of my favorite tunes on the record because I just love how it just propels forward right from the very beginning. And, it's not much else I could say. It's got a good storyline to it.
Right.
The way Eric delivers the vocal is killer. So it's got a lot going for it for sure.
Sure. And then obviously the first single and video, as we mentioned, was "Good Luck Trying," which that was the first taste everybody had. Why was that song chosen over the rest? Is it just because it's just a straightforward rock track, or?
I don't know. I think I'm happy it was, because it kind of it showed off what I could do a little bit with the band, which I appreciate.
Sure.
It just has a lot of good energy. It does have that sort of that Jimi Hendrix thing to it in that groove, but it just shows it's just a high energy rockin' song right out of the gate. I think they wanted to come out with some good high energy with this record and not start small and go up, because I think we just wanted to hit them across the face right from the beginning. I think that tune did that.
Sure. Now, I got to say, as much as we talk praise for Paul Gilbert, he's got to be looking over his shoulder at you now that I've seen the Up On You video with that 12-string guitar. That looked like a real fun time. That
dude,
video.
It's a blast. And we do this little switcheroo thing on the shows every night where I go out and I play guitar. It's a very simple song. Good Lovin', but it's still, I have an amazing guy Paul's a killer drummer. Paul goes back and plays drums, and he's a fantastic drummer. And the fact that I have this incredible teacher to show me things and just to figure stuff out is just a total blast. So I'm learning a lot about the instrument just from being in the band with that guy.
Had you ever played guitar more than just scratch guitar playing? I mean, I've been
playing my whole life, really.
Okay.
I mean, drums obviously are my main instrument. But I play enough guitar to be able to perform while playing. I can't solo very well. I've never really, I could, I think, if I took the time to practice doing that kind of stuff. But it's the way the world works. I think I'm a proficient enough guitar player to play anything rhythm wise.
Right.
And I love playing guitar live and performing like that. So yeah, I've been playing for a long time.
Sure. Now you guys have been out on the Big Finish tour. Is the tour still going on? I know you were, I wasn't sure if it had ended already or not. Where are we at with the tour?
So we're on a break right now. And what's happening is the guys are going back out to play July and August back in Europe.
Okay.
When I originally took this gig, the tour was supposed to go until May of this year.
Okay.
Schedule wise, we're going to be done by May. Okay. So my band, Big Big Train, was looking to do some other stuff. So I said, yeah, summer's completely open. So they booked a couple of big festivals for us, Big Big Train I'm talking about, over in Europe. And then all of a sudden I got the call, schedule's changed. We're going to play all summer long. So it's like, oh my gosh, come on, guys. So long story short, the guys are going to go out to do some festivals and some gigs back in Europe, middle of July. And then I go do my few gigs with Big Big Train, and I'm going to rejoin the band in the middle of August in Frankfurt and finish out the tour.
Okay.
Hold on one second. Let me find this so I get it correct.
Okay.
The drummer that's filling in for me, his name's Edu Cominato. I hope I'm pronouncing his name. He's
from
Brazilian.
Jeff Scott Soto's
band. Yeah, and he plays for Jeff Tate and a few other guys. He's a really sweet guy. Great drummer. They've worked with him before down there, like in the past when they've gone to South America. They've played with him before. So he's going to fill in and do some of those gigs. And he's lucky guy, gets to play some great festivals like Wacken and a few other amazing big old rockin' metal festivals over there I get to miss. But so yes, the tour finishes that. And then there's talk about doing a few more after that to finish, to completely put it to bed. Now, it is the Big Finish tour. And what I've been telling everybody, and I think I'm not speaking out of line here, and don't quote me, I don't know if this is going to happen for sure, but I think the band might play. It may not be the very end of us ever playing shows again. I just don't think they want to do any more of these super long, drawn out tours. We were gone for 4 months solid with like one day off since January. It is a lot. Billy tours a lot. Paul, not as much. Eric likes to gig a lot, but that's a big stretch. And I think it's just at this point, that's not what they want to do anymore. But, a one-off here and there, I don't see that being out of the question.
Okay.
I just don't think there's going to be any of these long, crazy tours anymore.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Big Big Train. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's give that some love as well.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about The Likes of Us, because another cool record that you're on.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's our first record with our new lead singer, Alberto Bravin. He's from Italy. We had a very tragic accident in 2021 where our previous lead singer, David Longden, passed away had an accident. There was nothing anybody ever expected. It kind of hit us all right across the head. It was really bad. But, after a long period of mourning, for sure, we decided that we wanted to keep the band back going, and we looked around for singers, and Alberto came our way. Now, fast forward, we did some gigs, and then we decided to make a new record, and the record, The Likes of Us, got dropped on March 1st of this year. We're really excited. It's a little bit, Alberto brings a nice rock passion to the way he sings. He's a metalhead at heart. He loves Dream Theater and lots of Black Sabbath and those kinds of things. Sure. So he brings in a little bit of a rock grit to the band that we didn't have in the past, which is really nice. It's a nice new flavor. We've done a lot. We've done 15 records. The band's been around for a long time. I've been in the band since 2007. We've always been an unapologetic English progressive rock band. We never shied away from that term, progressive rock. This is what we do. And we've gotten a little bit rockier as the band has gone on anyway, even with David, our previous singer. But now with Alberto, we still have all that progressive rock goodness that we've always had, but just a little more grit to those songs, some more accessible things that aren't so outside for the average listener. So it's a really cool record, I think, that it's a whole new step up for us.
Did it feel different recording? I mean, obviously it's different when you change anybody in a band, but
of course, yeah.
Did the creative process, I guess, change because bringing in Alberto, he comes with his own set of how to do things. And then you guys have your way for, 15, 20 years of doing the band this way. Did the creative change, and was it a comfortable change?
It was, and it was a really cool thing because even though we had planned to try to do this prior when David was around, but we recorded this record all together in a room in a recording studio for the first time ever as a band. Back in the old days, I would go to England and play drums to demos, and then the guys would go off and finish, add to it. A few years past that, when I was like at Sweetwater here in Indiana, I would record my drums there and send them files and that kind of stuff. And that worked out great. We made some great records that way, but we decided we wanted to record like a band in a room, playing songs live and then fixing them from there. And that's what we did. We got together in Alberto's hometown of Trieste, Italy, at a studio, and we all plugged in and we recorded together. So this record is the first time Big Big Train's recorded like that. And I think it really brings a nice flavor to the songs and a vibe that you really only get when you're interacting with your musician friends one-on-one. It's just like when you're playing a live show. So it's a really fresh way for us to make a record. And I think we'll probably never go back to making records the old way anymore.
So you like doing the in a room instead of having the freedom to, I've always said this, and I've had a lot of musicians tell me the same thing. Having the freedom is almost worse because then you overanalyze everything and you take kind of the warmth away from it.
Yeah, I mean, there's goods and good and bad things for both, but I think it being the interaction of the players in that immediate instance is what brings the magic, at least to the bed tracks. Alberto redid the vocals after we had the beds and sang them for real, and he was more sort of just singing along while we were actually performing, even though if something was good, we kept it. But there was just that instant feedback that you get when you're hearing somebody. It's just like when you're on stage on a gig, those little things take you a certain way you might not have thought of if you're just sitting analyzing on your own. So it's that little magic, that little kind of fairy dust that we were looking for. And I think we got
right on. Definitely. Now, Nick, real quick before we wrap this up, I want to talk about one other project that you did just because I'm fascinated. You obviously with Pat Torpey, replacing Pat, you're stepping into big shoes, as we talked about before. But this is not the biggest shoes you've ever stepped into before. Obviously with Genesis, you stepped in for Phil Collins, which that's jumping from size 5s to clown shoes almost. Those are massive shoes to fill. Talk a little bit about that experience and I guess, just a two-parter. One, talk about the experience, but two, is there any part of that where you're even a little bit overwhelmed, even if it's just at home the day before you go to the studio the first time, where you're just like, oh my God, it's Phil Collins. He sold 200 million records or whatever. Now I'm stepping in here. Is there any of that kind of nerves that goes into your mind?
Well, of course. especially when I got to the studio for the first time and I walked down the little hallway to his drum room, and it's just lined with all the platinum records and stuff. And then you get to the Stone room where he recorded so many of their tunes in their own studio in England. Yeah, that was pretty. The Gretsch kit there, it was right. It was mind blowing, to be quite honest with you. Listen, man, I never in my wildest dreams expected that to happen. Phil Collins was my drumming idol as a kid. Anybody who knows me, that's who I look up to the most. I knew every Genesis song backwards and forward. I learned how to play drums quite a bit from that man. And to the fact that I even got the call to send in more music to see if, this could actually happen. And then they flew me there to audition was like, how is this even possible? Because no one ever expected him to quit and to move on from Genesis, right? So this, it was just crazy how it all worked out, especially with that particular band, because they were my favorite band growing up as a kid. So again, I just never expected it. So it was totally overwhelming. I had done a lot of stuff, so I kind of know how to behave and act in certain situations, and I could be faking it, on the inside, right. But that's kind of what I did. And those guys are super mellow. Mike Rutherford and Tony Banks were really just low key, mellow guys in the studio. It wasn't like that there was any weird pressure or the vibe was strange. They were just sort of quiet and hung out and gave me their opinions on what they wanted to hear. And I would go and I'd play and come back and they go, yeah, try this. Cool. They didn't say play like Phil. They wanted me to play like me.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, once we got started and the music started, it was just like playing with another musician friend. It really kind of eased quickly after that. But those initial moments, especially when I first got in the studio and I shook their hands for the first time, I'd never met them before. It was like, wow, I really like that record you made. It was that total Chris Farley thing from Saturday Night Live, and he's interviewing Paul McCartney. It was sort of like that. Yeah. So it was crazy and super fun and just what an experience.
And I guarantee that record is hanging somewhere on your wall, just because you played on a Genesis record, man.
I know. It's amazing.
It really, and I don't have to tell you, but I mean, so few people get a chance to play in a band that their idol came from.
Oh my God, man. That just doesn't
there's
really happen.
There's you, Jason Bonham. That's about it. It really, I just have to think it was just the greatest experience just to do that, man.
It was mind blowing. It was the first time I ever flew first class. I was playing with this girl, Jonathan Brooke, who's a singer-songwriter that I've done a bunch of work with over the years. And I went from doing a little tour on the Northeast with her to getting in a plane and flying over for the audition. And it was the very first time I ever flew first class on a plane. And I never forget, it was a Continental Airlines plane, I think out of New York City. And I was the first, it was in the front row, there was just two seats. And then, more went behind that. I was in the very front row in the first seat, in the bed and drinking champagne and all of that stuff. It was incredible. It was really cool.
Very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, dude, one more time. We'll wrap this up here. The new album from Mr. Big, which is the current record, is 10. It's coming out here shortly. It's not out quite yet, but by the time this airs, it will be out. So everybody should definitely go to the websites and pick it up. Buy it, please. Don't just stream it. That one millionth of a penny is not going to help Nick a whole ton. So, please buy it. Help these guys out. And of course, you can also get Big Big Train, the likes of us. That has been out since March. Where's the best place to get stuff on Big Big Train?
Just go to the website and it'll point you towards the store to buy the record physically. You could always request it at your local music store. There are some great record stores in the world, and we could use the love in more of these record stores. I do see it every once in a while. So you can buy it like that, the old school way. But the bigbigtrain.com is the best place to go to find the best place for you, whether you're overseas or in the States, to buy it. It is streamed on all the major places, of course.
Sure.
We have our own shop where you could get it directly. It sounds great on vinyl. I'm a huge vinyl, sort of really geeking out on vinyl again these days. As a lot of people are, because it's a great medium to listen to records. The Mr. Big record is going to sound killer on vinyl as well. So if you like to listen to records, definitely pick it up. It's nice and warm sounding. You'll totally enjoy it.
Well, one more time, 2 records you all need to be experiencing. Big Big Train, the likes of us, and Mr. Big's 10. And Nick, this has been a lot of fun, man. Thanks so much for joining me here on Chris Akin Presents.
Thank you so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
The Classic Metal Show now has all of our videos on Spotify. Simply look up and subscribe to the CMS Network on Spotify, and you'll get the audio and video podcasts each day from the Classic Metal Show. It's never been easier to listen to Mealy and Chris, so simply open Spotify, subscribe to the CMS Network, and enjoy the Classic Metal Show every single